Welcome you all on behalf of Association of Muslim Professionals to the AMP Webtalk. Association of Muslim Professionals is a non-profit organization and is registered in India, United States of America, United Kingdom, and Australia. AMP has completed its 12 years in serving our community in the field of education, employment, and empowerment. AMP has a vision to positively impact lives of 10 million people by the year 2030. AMP's mission is to empower the underprivileged for the greater benefit of society and nation as a whole. AMP's vision is to be a model community which is advanced in education, socially progressive, culturally vibrant, politically influential, and economically dynamic. So what AMP has achieved in these past 12 years is right in front of you all in this slide. You can just have a quick look at it so that you can understand our achievements, what projects we do, and what activities under these projects we conduct. So in this slide, you can see our achievements. You can go through it. I'll just wait here for a few seconds. As you can see that we have school development programs and we call it SDPs. Under this, you can see the achievements. Then we also have Employment Assistance Cell, we call it EAC, where we have conducted job fairs and job drives. Again, we have scholarships and self-employment. We also have AMP Resource Center, where we have 600 plus career counselors. AMP also do awards and partnerships. So friends, these are our main flagship projects where we work towards benefiting our community and nation. Apart from that, AMP's presence is in front of you in the slide. On ground, AMP got more than 100 active chapters. We are present in 25 states and 16 countries with more than 6,000 active members and volunteers. In AMP's online presence, as you can see, we got 125,000 members and professionals who are connected to us through various social media platforms like Instagram, Facebook, Google, WhatsApp, and LinkedIn. If you wish to join AMP at any point of time, you can just log on to www.ampindia.org/joinamp, and we will be glad to have you on board with us. All right, so I see that people have joined us, and friends, thank you for your patience, and I'm sure that you all must have got a fair idea about AMP and its work. Moving forward to the session, I welcome each one of you on behalf of AMP. I'm Humaira, your host today. I'm working as Operations Manager at AMP USA. Along with me, we have Mr. Saeed Saab, who's Director of Technology at Swift E-Learning Services, and Saeed Saab has joined us from Hyderabad. Let me quickly introduce you all to our expert speaker of this series, Mr. Shah Siddiqui Sahab, who's the CEO of Reed Academy. Mr. Shah Saab is a career coach, a training consultant, and a management faculty with more than 2 decades of experience in the area of management sciences. Mr. Shah Saab has joined us from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. So before I hand over to Shah Saab, I would just like to tell you that Saeed sir will be talking about the LMS and assessments at the end of the session, inshallah. So those who have issues and questions related to LMS, I would request you all to please hold on to your queries till the session ends. After Shah Saab's session, we will be having a Q&A round for 20 minutes. So if in case you have any question specific to the topic, you can raise your questions using Q&A round as well. I will request Shah Saab to proceed with the session now. Thank you. Over to you, Shah Saab.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Ms. Amira.
Thank you.
My apologies if I have logged in late. I always have trouble logging in. So once again, I am back. Welcome all to our webinar series. And today's topic, as you all are aware, is Train the Trainer. And my apologies for the confusion as I could not announce this topic last week. But we have this scheduled for you, especially for you, this topic, one of a kind, a unique topic, which we would be looking at in detail. So I welcome you all to Train the Trainer. And If my voice and the video is clear, we would begin in a minute. Is
Yes,
everything
sir.
clear, Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
All right.
it's perfect.
So,
Thank you.
I'm sure you all are familiar with this topic, train the trainer, and I wouldn't be surprised if the topic is not or was not on your list, because this is a topic that we would all like for you all to be equipped with along with your soft skills towards the end of the series. So we will take a look at how to become a trainer or a facilitator and be able to deliver compelling and state-of-the-art workshops or webinars. Train the trainer has traditionally been a topic in demand, especially with the advent of technology that came in, especially the slides and the presentations and the, as they prospered with the newer topics. So once again, we could use this in our webinar series, in our online virtual theme that we have been following, and do the best we can in getting ourselves equipped with everything that we need to be a facilitator or a trainer. So for those of you who have been interested in this topic, who are curious to know about what entails in Train the Trainer, this is all about how you would project yourself in a leadership position, how you would equip yourself with the competencies that you need, how you would have the required skills, as we have learned in the iceberg model, the skills that are seen, which are knowledge, capabilities, and so forth, and how to compile all of these so as to be in a process towards giving it out to the learners as a way of self-discovery, as a way of making them learn by themselves. This is known as participant-centered learning. So these are the basics, but it starts out with training, and then we will look at what the purpose is and how it's taken. So to begin with, the purpose of training. What's the purpose of training? This is what we start with. To give you a brief on the topic for today before we get started. So the purpose of training is what it does, and it does it good. Just like how the purpose of an organization is. The purpose of an organization is what it does. So the same way, training is embedded in as an aspect of the corporal idea, the mission, vision, and the philosophies. And the purpose of a training is to deliver results. Okay, and then the results are, taken, from a standpoint of the organizational strategic areas, and then this is basically to say where we stand today. With the training, we would like to see where we are today and where the training would take us to. So it involves participation and it involves performance. So how the performance can improve. So when we talk about performance, we come down to our behavior. We always had our behavior linked to the competencies and to the other aspects of business. So a change in behavior or a modification of behavior is also an outcome as a process of learning or training. So with this, we take a look at what's needed for training. How does training come into the picture? Does someone have to pay for it? And who identifies the training? What are the needs? And how do you gather information? Because the biggest challenge about training or being a trainer was not just to identify the need, but to get, not just to get the buy-in, the permission, and not to find out who's paying for it, as well as the effectiveness, but most importantly, the material. Okay, this has been a challenge. So how to gather the material and how to be resourceful when it comes to delivering a training, and how the return of investment can be calculated. So these are the aspects of training without which you could not be able to deliver, or it could not happen. So obviously somebody's paying for it and somebody's identifying it. So you'd have to look at two things when it comes to identification. As to one, the performance, how there could be a low and high. If there is a gap between a low and high performer. So how one group of people within an organization can be high performers as well as low performers. So this is what tells you what the gap is. and the training will fulfill the gap or meet the gap or will bring the gap closer. So we use a lot of basic business techniques and understanding of business and understanding of how the institutions work, how the organizational settings are. So a lot of your business knowledge is needed. And we'll try to sum up your business background with the soft skill that we had learned as we were journeying through the webinar series. So, this is what it entails. So you'd have to look at how we can match or bring the gap or close the gap between high and low performance. And then how we can see that there is an opportunity for learning and growth. This is also important. Sometimes learning is not needed. So what would we do? Can we just not train them? Well, we'd have to look at other areas, which includes coaching. Sometimes coaching is working out better in terms of investment than training, because we talked about the difference between a trainer and a coach. And then sometimes when you don't need a trainer, you have a facilitator who doesn't have, who is not an expert on the required knowledge, but he is also a person who can facilitate, who can bring about an interest, who can facilitate, who can start up a discussion, help you mind map, interact, and stuff like that. So there's a mix of, all the different characteristics that we can bring in. And then it goes on from facilitation to coaching, and then to looking at the environment, how the environment can be effective, how we can bring in outside elements, how activities and icebreakers come into the picture, and then how to bring about an effective training module, and how to plan for the lesson. Lesson relates to not just the way we would study at school, but it involves a lot of other things that we would try to do a module on, creating a lesson plan, and so forth. And it goes towards how there could be surprises, contingencies that we have to be prepared for. So a backup plan is needed in every training workshop, regardless of the settings you're in, virtual or non-virtual, just like any other business. And then how to handle the tough topics and the tough participants. So these are the tricks of the trade, in addition to your knowledge, in addition to the information that you have. And then in today's world of, in today's global environment, which is very, very, legal sensitive, you also have to look at the copyrights. This is very important, and it's very regional. There are some areas, some regions in the world who would never ever copy a single aspect of information or data. Whereas in some parts of the world, every software is downloaded illegally. And then we'll look at the legalities, how laws change in every country, and then how strict they are, regardless of the country, the region, and then how risky it is for you to travel, especially travel international, with a copyrighted material that has not been granted permission. And then it goes so far. So all the way, we would look at how throughout the process a learner is going to be aware of the lesson plan, and then he moves up until he gains competency and mastery. So in the end, we would have to look at the effectiveness of the training, how we can get to what we need. So this would be about a brief on this topic. We'll try to cover as much as we can in our modules, but then I wouldn't be too much worried about it, because every webinar that you have attended has followed the methodology, the needed steps that I would be following today. So it would be easier for you to all to grasp, to take a look at how we were summarizing, how we were having activities, icebreakers, energizers, and videos to keep up with the pace, and how it was stimulating and how it was keeping you all engaged. So this is, of course, with some drawbacks, as we are restricted to an hour and a half as opposed to a one-day session, and as opposed to in a non-virtual setting. But I'm sure you all have been doing good. And then this topic, once again, has been customized, tailored for you all to have it towards the end of your session. We started out with soft skills as an emotional quotient, as a measure of an emotional quotient, where we require everything that we need in today's world, where soft skills are non-existent. And then how you can move up and become a leadership, take up a leadership role, the top administrative position. And without being a presenter, trainer, or a facilitator, it would be very difficult for you all to have an opportunity. So with that, I'm gonna start out with a bit of activity and interaction like we always do. The chat box is open. I hope everyone is handy on your chat box. And before I get to the slide, I just have a pre-assignment for you, sort of an activity. As you can see how we have incorporated this aspect of the webinar, this aspect of the training into our webinar. So my first question would be for you all to answer in the chat box, Y for yes and for no. The first question is, have you ever been offered a leadership position, or have you ever tried your hand as an influencer, but could not due to the lack of opportunity or competence? So I repeat, the question is, have you ever been offered a leadership position, or have you ever tried your hands as a influencer, but could not or was not able to due to the lack of opportunity or competence? So the two words here that I'm emphasizing is competence and opportunity. So Y for yes and N for no, you have like 10 seconds. I already see answers coming in. All right, great. All right. Yes, no, no opportunity. Okay. All right. Two words that I would like for you all to keep in mind is opportunity and competence. All right. My next question is, have you ever been offered a long presentation or a keynote address, but then you dread it and decline because you have the fear of public speaking? Okay. Because you've been nervous because of the fear of public speaking. So Y for yes and N for no. This is the second question. Have you ever been offered a keynote address to deliver and or a long presentation, but you dread it and you decline because of the fear of the public or speaking? All right. A few Y's and few N's. Okay. All right. Last question. All right. I'm going to give you a few more seconds. Last question is, have you ever wanting to be a facilitator or a trainer, but you could not initiate because of the lack of resources and training material? Okay, so we have two things here, where I need your answer: lack of training material, resources that you could not initiate if you ever wanted to be a trainer. All right, Y for yes and N for no. All right, it's mostly Y. All right. All right. Okay, great. So it's mostly Y. Now, if you look at on my first question and second, third, they all had, these are all closed. I needed your answer, and most of you are yes. So if you have Y for an answer, and once again, here's your chance to understand everything, why it didn't happen with you, why you could not initiate, why you dreaded, and how you had the fear, and how you thought the resources are something that you couldn't get your hands on. So everything is possible, and this is what we will look at today. Now, competence and opportunity is what I asked you in the first question. Unless you become a trainer, unless you become a facilitator or a person who would influence and be on the top or stand out in a corporate setting, you wouldn't be getting an opportunity. Okay, the opportunity comes only when you stand out. I'm sure you all agree to it. So competence is something that you build on. We talked about it. And then when it comes to resources, training material, you have to know that sky is the limit, and internet plays a major role in today's world. So you would have to be savvy to understand how to extract information. And then a person who is poor on the training material can actually get it from the market. It's available in the market. You can buy it, but you do have to customize it. And then content creation is a part of delivering the right lesson plans, designing it. And then you would have to have a grip on the ebooks, everything that's available. You have to have a collection, a library of ebooks, anything that you would read that you would have to read and extract. Okay, as a primary source, you can write your own version, which is known as a secondary source, of course, you would have to cite the source. So this way you avoid copywriting. And then the fear of public speaking or being nervous about public is by practice. I think we talked about it in communication skills and the motivational theory. So most of the topics have been covered. And then your next stage as you graduate from the series, webinar series on soft skills would be to take up the position as a facilitator, trainer, and or an influencer. And that takes you towards the goal that we had. So everything today should be clear and simple, as we have been following the same from the beginning. So you all have been well exposed to the most important major topics, and most importantly, state-of-the-art, very professionally developed modules. And as you all can see, our modules follow a certain pattern, a theme, and they all have been professionally developed and specifically customized for you all. All right, so with this, we begin our modules for today. And I hope I'm not behind, but we would have time to cover hopefully everything. So I'm going to try to share screen now, and just give me 1 second. And here it is. Okay, all right, so I hope it's in the presentation mode. The topic for today is train the trainer. It can be called many different ways, but we like to call it train the trainer. And then this will help us understand, take a look at the tricks of the trade, help us understand how to deliver compelling workshops with state-of-the-art, and how to prepare the lesson and so forth. All right. So as you can see, this is for someone who does a bit of training as a part of their job. You will want to be prepared for the training that you do. But this doesn't mean that if you are not a trainer or not a person who has been exposed, if you are totally technical, then you have to move away from a specialist role to a managerial role. So this is going to help you. And a big part of the training would apply to salespeople as well. And then we will take a look at some examples how the salespeople would need to be equipped with the training skills. So here are the objectives. There's more to it than here because it has been customized. Define training. Identify needs. Manage difficult participants, but there's more to it, like how to prepare the lesson, how to gather information, how to identify, and then take a look at the factors other than training the participants, how to have an effective training session, and so forth. All right, so if we begin with training, and the purpose of training is to deliver results. And then the purpose of training is to understand what the organization needs are. The purpose of training is to understand how we can best deliver it. So when it comes to delivering training, there is also an aspect of delivery which is done through a facilitator. So here we will take a look at understanding the difference between training and facilitation. So the purpose of training is to deliver results. And then it goes on towards having a behavior modification. Or if the end result is for you all to come up with the intended behavior or a difference in your own self, skills, capabilities. And then this is done by a trainer who brings in some expert knowledge. And then sometimes we have to understand why the training is required. Is it because of a gap, or is it because of a performance issue? Is it relating to attitudes? Is it relating to some personalities? Or is it just relating to poor performance? So if it's relating to not just performance, but also attitudes and the behavior of some individuals, then in that case, training is not very efficient, very effective. So here we come up with a step where we try to engage the participants by facilitating the topic. So in an organization, when we understand that there is a gap and there is a need for training, and then if you understand that there's training can be fulfilled by this gap can be fulfilled by the required training, and then there would be growth, there would be opportunity for growth, then you would perform the training. But how to gauge the situation? You would have to understand who identified it, and you have to understand who is trying to attend the training, the participant. So this way you would be able to get an aspect of how the training is required and who would want it. So this is just to focus on training as opposed to facilitation. So I'll give you an example here. If the training has been identified by a manager of the sales team who's making cold calls or who's soliciting a business, and there seems to be a difference between a high performer and a low performer. There seems to be a difference in phone calls made and in the closing ratio. So the need has been identified that people within a group are not able to close deals while some people are. So the supervisor would identify a need saying that we need some kind of training on helping these customer service reps close the call and make it short quickly, close the call within 5 minutes or within 6 minutes, and at the same time make a deal, have a successful close. And then when you look at this, you would feel that there is a need for training in time management, right? And then you would also feel that there is a need to have a module prepared for closing the transactions, which means that getting a successful call, having a meeting scheduled, or having a sale made. So here, this is training relating to sales, time management, and closing sale. But when you go in and try to understand what the requirements are with customer service rep, you will come to an understanding that it's not time management. They're spending the same time, but they're not able to close the loan. They're not able to close the deal. They're not able to close the transaction. So you would have a module prepared how to just close the deal and make it a success as opposed to time management. So this is by understanding the department in depth. So this is where the facilitation will come in. In the beginning, you will start out your process by facilitating, having a facilitator understand what is going on and get a feedback from him before a training module is scheduled. Or at the same time, when training is not required at all, then a facilitation would help. So this is the difference between a trainer and a facilitator. He basically comes with an expert knowledge as opposed to a facilitator. And a facilitator can only examine, the needed skills, whereas a trainer can impart, can deliver the needed skills, and so forth. So the first difference that we are trying to understand is between training and a facilitation, or between a trainer and facilitator. So if you look at the slide, you may provide training or facilitate a discussion of idea. What is training? It's identifying needs, management buying, learning opportunities, and evaluating. So who identifies the need? The department supervisor. Wherever there seems to be a gap, is the person who would identify the need. He who feels the gap would identify the need. But of course, when you have a need for training, you need to have the permission. So in the corporate setting, you always have to have it buy-in. You don't move until you have the permission, and you get the permission and you move ahead. This is a standard rule. So the management would have to give you the permission. And of course, you would have to make sure what the management would want in return, because their aspect is more return or investment related, the return of investment. And your supervisor who's identifying the need will have an outcome, will have a requirement that you would have to incorporate. And same way, the learning opportunities is by meeting with the participants, by understanding the needs, by creating the required lesson plan. And then evaluating is the effectiveness of the process, how effective the training will be. Can you be able to use it over and over, again and again? Is this something that would be required? There are some organizations who have a training session every week. Some have it every day because the retention is very low, and then people come and go, especially in sales, where there's no salary and then where there's only commission. So these are the aspects of training. These are the way you would start out understanding what training is. And then the best part about facilitation is it works great on the return of investment or on ROI, because this does not require the setting that the trainer requires. Here it's informal. Here it's, informal discussion. The facilitator, of course, may lack the knowledge, so you can obviously have any team leader facilitate a session. He provides discussion, openness for learning. He brings about interest. He gathers momentum, interaction, mind mapping, and he explores. So this would be a way to facilitate training by a facilitator. And if these things don't work out, if the facilitator can figure it out that there is training required or no training required, then here's your savings. So this is the difference between a trainer and facilitator that we learn at this stage. Identifying appropriate situations. Here you would have to understand where every participant stands, his level of understanding, his knowledge, and in what level of the organizational structure he fits in. And then how the topics are relevant to them, and how to protect the participants in terms of knowledge, in terms of their tensions, in terms of their sensitivity, in terms of their phobias. Because when you start training, there's one aspect of trainer being nervous. It happens with everyone. But then there's the other aspect that the learners don't know, which they themselves, how nervous they are. So these are the things that we would have to incorporate and move on. There is a saying in workshops, very famous saying, on the lines of what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. You may have heard about it. So in a workshop, you have to make it known that what happens in a workshop stays in the workshop. So the participants will be able to take risk, dismiss stereotypes, take the initiatives, be bold enough, and battle with preconceived and preset situations, make mistakes, and learn from it. So this is about the openness, the friendliness, and the graces of having a setup, a workshop accredited to the trainer, the way the trainer would design. So that was on the difference between training and facilitation.
Jordan watched as his team members milled about with no idea where to begin. Nick and Danny looked like lost souls with no direction. Jordan knew that time had come to corral the troops and make some sense of all their jobs entailed. With a wave of his magic wand and keen eye for proper training, Jordan waxed poetic and explained all that they were expected to do in finite detail, leaving no stone unturned. Soon, everyone had a clear grasp of the concepts and had a plan of action to succeed. Jordan made no bones about it. They would forge ahead as one or disintegrate as many. Everyone understood that the job had to be done and now knew exactly how to make things happen. The former clueless bunch were now top-notch movers and shakers, and the company leaders were elated with how quickly they caught on and how swiftly Jordan whipped them into tip-top shape.
All right. So this is about how in a team discussion, people will improve. In a group setting and in a coaching session or a facilitation session, how you would see instant improvement in their attitudes, in their behaviors, in the skills, and how the fear is gone. So you would have to resurrect the material. You have to resurrect the situation as a trainer, as a facilitator, and a coach. So this was a good example, how to start out with simple sessions. You may be inexperienced, but you'd have to start out by having a session to get together. Formal, informal, it could be anywhere, off site or on site. So with this, we will move on to our next topic, which is gathering material. This is a major aspect of training, and you would have to understand how you would get to this step. And here, gathering material, it does not relate to designing a lesson plan. It relates to how and what the participants' needs are, and how would you move up designing a lesson. So you would have to do a need analysis here. You start out with a need analysis. In many a time, you would just end up in the workshop room or in the conference room. Okay, and many a time you would be behind the scene gathering information all the way from understanding the need for training, setting up, identifying the need, and then getting the buy-in and so forth. So the L&D department is what um, this is about. L&D department is involved in this. Now you could be a trainer, anonymous, or you could be a trainer from outside, or you could be a part of the L&D department because we have regular on-job training session. But this workshop is also giving you an opportunity to understand how to set up an L&D department. I hope you're getting my point here. So here's the real opportunity. For those of you who are in the corporate scene who can identify the need for training or who can identify the gaps as in your managerial position between high and low performers, then here's a chance for you to set up a training session or even build on or set up a L&D department, the learning and development department. So here's an opportunity for you all to be a trainer, get yourself a new job as a trainer, facilitator, or influencer, as well as set up a training department. You have to be in touch with outside vendors how to do that. All right, so let's look at how to gather information. There are some steps involved in this, and we'll have to understand how to get to this position by identifying the participants' needs. So once you meet with the participant, you'll have an idea what kind of organizational background they have, what kind of settings they are in, and where they would like to be. So there is a spectrum here, a scale that starts from A and set M. Okay, so a participant starts out with an awareness level. He moves on to familiarity, competence, and mastery. So if you can identify these steps, then you would be able to move up. You will be able to move on in imparting or in gathering the information that's needed. And awareness is obviously at a beginner step. So if you're trying to impart a sales training, you would have to find out how aware they are with this technique. Or if it's a new product, the awareness may not be so high. It might be new. They might be familiar with the product, but they might require competence. But then once the program has been designed, and if you will get to the level of mastery, then this is where your training needs are met by understanding the participants' need. Many a time, the participants' training needs are not met, but it would be left up to them to decide how to move, how to build on it, because there will be materials given to them. So this is a very critical area where the designers will have to understand what level of knowledge would need to be imparted. Say you're trying to learn a language, a computer language, then there is a lot in there. Obviously, you cannot get everything out of the workshop up to the mastery. Now, here there's a factor, who's paying for it? If you're going through a corporate invitation, then obviously your employer is paying for it. And there's so much that he could do by giving you a 1-day, 3-day, or a 5-day training. Now, in the 5-day training, you have your own shortcomings as a participant that we will look at later, how you could be preoccupied with other work, how you may have deadlines to meet, because you are still working. So chances are by the end of the session, you may not gain mastery. You may have some competence or very little competence, but some familiarity, and maybe not. But in any event, if you don't exhibit the competence that you need in delivering the application at your work site, the chances are your position is in jeopardy. So the responsibility lies on your L&D department and on your outside vendors who provide you the training. If you're going outside your organization, then there is little accountability, little responsibility. The trainers get paid and they're gone. Post session help may not be possible. But if this is a part of your L&D department, you save on a lot and you always have the option of refreshing your course because it's repeated. So anyway, the participant needs start from awareness to mastery, and you do have to understand where your training material or the gathering material would entail. So how would you prepare the material? And you would review it by what is available, current, applicable, you verify sources. Current in the sense you would have to understand what the product is, and if it's a proprietary product, you may not find anything available in the textbooks, in the literature. We may have to buy the literature from the source, and how applicable it is to your organization. This is a part of gathering the material. Now, this is not to make you all scared or to think that it's very difficult. I mean, it's all available in the market. You start out at the level you are and you move up slowly. Your organization is at the level where it is now, and with the training, it would move up slowly. So whatever is applicable, but resources are very important. You have to identify the resources. You cannot just get information and put it in. You cannot just get something from somewhere and post it. So we'll look at it when we talk about copyrights and the information and versus knowledge. How do the learners learn? This is what you have to understand when you are willing to compile the information. So here, as a process of identifying the need and understanding the difference between low and high performance, as well as the opportunity to see the growth. This is sequel to what we did in the earlier part, where we started out by identifying the need, and then we looked at the difference between low and high performance. That would be the gap, and how there would be an opportunity for growth. And then comes, horizontally, who's paying for it. But here in the first step, where we looked at the gaps, you would have to understand how the gaps can be fulfilled. Now, the gaps can be fulfilled by understanding the domains that help the learners to learn from, or the learners learn, the participant would only learn from 4 domains. It's listed here on the screen. The first one is the cognitive domain. Second one is affective, psycho, and interpersonal. Now, as a trainer, I can give you a trick to be able to have synonyms for everything. Like here, it's CAPI, it's very easy to remember. Or CPA, ICPA. CPA is Certified Public Accountant. Or CPI is Consumer Price Index. Or what else is CPI? So anyway, whatever your field is, try to remember this and create some acronyms, whichever way you want to remember, and that would be easy. So this is the way the trainer would remember and deliver. But here it is for you. Here, what's here for you to understand is how the learners learn and how can you resolve the gap. So one is the cognitive domain. I think we spend enough time cognitive. What does this tell you about your emotional domain? So cognitive relates to your brain, your knowledge, right? And affective is sequel, relates to your emotions. Psychomotor relates to your skills. And interpersonal, we have been talking all throughout, relates to your behavior. So how do people learn from their knowledge? How would you impart knowledge? How would you be able to understand their emotions? We spend enough time on this. And their skills and their behavior. So these are the 4 areas that people will learn from. And these are the areas that you would have to incorporate in having the knowledge come down. Okay. And knowledge is what we look at. Remember KSA, the top part of the iceberg model, knowledge, skills, and capability. This is what we need. And then you don't have to give anything other than knowledge, skills, and capabilities. Just so you all understand, because once you're on the internet, and then you start getting information, you will be happy to see there is explosion. There is information explosion. It's very easy for you all to copy. But you have to understand what is information. So a question for your chat bags is, you can say true or false, TNF. Is information and knowledge the same? Is information same as knowledge? And is knowledge same information? You can write it on your chat box. I'll get to it later on today. But this is just so you understand how you can deliver what is needed as a part of your training by gathering information from these 4 domains. So the question was, is information and knowledge the same? T for true, F for false in your chat box.
Cameron surveyed the room and couldn't make heads or tails of what he'd seen. Jane held rulers, pencils, and a dry erase board in her hand. Michael held crayons, a telephone, and a box of tissue in his hands. Cameron sensed they lacked proper preparation and knew he had to turn things around quickly. With the items readily set aside, Cameron doled out orders to get them what they needed, and soon everyone in the room had been outfitted with the proper tools. Cameron understood from the moment he laid eyes on them that without the proper gear, they had no chance of success. Jane and Michael sat straighter in their chairs. They'd never realized that they were ill-equipped. New tools, a new drive, and new determination led them down a road they'd never ventured and one they'd never forget.
All right, that was about gathering information. I think we spent enough time on that. There's more for you to build on it. Module 4 is talking about an actual lesson plan. A lesson plan would probably remind you of your days in school, in your middle school most likely, but it's more than that. Lesson plan is a lesson plan. And this is an outline that can keep you both on track, plus give you plenty of options. So this is about how you can enhance your training. You can bring in whatever you need to enhance your training. And then you have to incorporate the lesson plan as needed based on whatever you want, based on your own gut feeling, based on how you would put yourself in the participant's shoe and then think if this is imparting knowledge or if this is information. And then if this is in accordance with the organizational strategy, if this is working out to be cost effective, if this is working out to be an effective presentation. So lesson plan has some steps that you have to take. What would you do? In your lesson, you would have to make sure that you have these following tools incorporated. This is basically the slides that you're looking at. So before you start the presentation, it doesn't necessarily have to be a round table, but it could be anything. You have to introduce the session, you have to introduce the topic, you have to introduce yourself as a trainer or somebody would do. In here, you all can see how we introduce, and I wouldn't have to worry about introducing my own self because Ms. Humera does an excellent job. In fact, she's the voice of the series, as you all would agree, from the introduction towards the end, and then she stays put all the way through and very up to the mark when it comes to the topics. So the introduction is about me, about the session, about the participants. And this is usually done in the form of icebreakers. This is how to get the day moving. This is how to break barriers. And this is how to introduce the participant. So if this was a live interactive workshop, then I would start out with icebreakers. I'm sure you all know what an icebreaker is. It breaks the ice, it initiates your version, and it breaks the ice for both the participants and for myself. So I have a lot of activities as icebreakers that I can do it. And then there are also ways of breaking the ice on in the virtual setting that we are in. But we'll get to it if we can during our Q&A session. So with the introduction, you start up with an icebreaker, you break the ice, get started, everyone settles. Wrap-ups is towards the end, but as a trainer, you would want to have very effective training. So you give the beginning and the end, like I always do. So if you have a call for action towards the end of the session saying that all the participants needs to work on this and come up with the required modification or the change or the behavior needed. So you bring this up in the beginning saying that this is the outcome. And to make it more effective, you can even have a paper or have them write it on their journal saying that this is the modification, this is the behavior that I need. So write it down as you move on. for anything that you need, for anything that might be difficult for you. And then activities are the place and timings of understanding. They call it, this is, related to the place and timings of learning. I hope you're getting it. So activities are something to do with doing. Okay, doing is, so you come up with something to continue with the mood, and then continue with your lesson and continue with the engagement and so forth. So there are a lot of activities, games, role playing, videos, and so forth as a part of your lesson. So you all have been seeing how, I bring in videos so that we all can have a breath of air and get an illustrations version of the learning. A symbol or a picture is worth 1,000 words. With the videos, I also have activities that are posted in your LMS. Now, I never had the time to explain it to you how the activities are done, because these are usually done in a live session. But I'm sure you can get to those sheets, try to understand how activities are played. So for those of you who are embarking on a training session as a trainer, you have those worksheets handy, take a look at it, design your own worksheet. On a webinar, we may have many activities asking you all, what's your favorite way of eating the pizza, for example, or what's on your desk. I have on my desk a lot of things, but we don't have the camera open, so only I can show it. And the best person who's having the best thing on the desk will get the prize. So these are the activities. This gives you a break. And then other than activities is a real break, where we have a coffee break, we have a lunch break and a coffee break. And believe me, breaks are very important. If I don't give the break on time, I get to have a complaint against me. So that's how important the breaks are in the part of the world that I live in. So hardly 2 hours goes by and there's a coffee break. And the coffee break is not just a coffee break, but it's almost a full-fledged buffet. And then in 2 hours comes a very, very big buffet, because most workshops are organized with the lunch. But many a time the participants can bring their own lunches, but you have to encourage them to eat together and then not extend the lunch, because the lunch could go on. All right, so these are some simple tricks as a part of your lesson. It's also important to add some slack time, some spaces for anything that goes wrong, for anything that, untowards happens. And then a contingency plan as plan B, because it always happens. The Murphy's Law, as you all know. If something needs to go wrong, then it will go wrong. If something is going wrong, then it may continue going wrong. If one pen doesn't work, chances are none of them will work. So you have to be prepared with a backup plan. This is, towards the later part.
Julian wafted through his training with no clear plan in mind. His trainees, Fred and Dawn, stared at him in disbelief. Neither had learned one single thing. Julian had failed and needed a different approach, but a new approach meant more work, and Julian had no time for that. Fred suggested that he begin anew and look at things with a fresh set of eyes. Dawn tried reasoning and explained that his approach lacked clarity. Julian considered and acknowledged that his training didn't cut the mustard, but that proper planning didn't suit his style. Fred and Dawn knew that they had to save Julian from himself and forged a plan to help him out. Together, they formulated a plan that would rival military plans of attack and provided Julian with a life-altering training alternative.
All right, we'll focus on some in-depth topics within the lesson, like, for example, choosing activities. So, like I said, it is by doing that understanding comes. So you would have to do this to get the concept. Theoretically, it may not be possible. So any topic that we did in the past, there was always an activity relating to that. So for example, if we had emotional sandwich, the topic that we taught, they will give you an activity on how you would have a praise, criticism, and a praise in the form of a sandwich. So the activities will bring the understanding that you need, and it stays with you for a long time. Because people come to the training to learn the best way, the fun way, and the easy way. And you can make their job easier. You can help them by developing these activities that are engaging and that are fun. So these are usually spontaneous. A trainer would understand what the need of the situation is. depending on the participant, and he'll come up with the break, with the activity, with energizer, something to invigorate the group, something to keep on going, and something to bring on the fun. Fun is an important element of these workshops, but that doesn't mean that you have to stand up and do comedy, okay? But of course, if this is a workshop on comedy, you would have to stand up and do it, but that's how you have to incorporate fun, and this is a part of how you would choose activities. So types of activities are icebreakers, energizers. Energizers are pick up as you go activities based on case studies relating to your organization or specific industry. Icebreakers are in the form of simulations and role playing. Icebreakers have a lot to do with role playing. Simulation is only when the training process to actual train people on a methodology or on an equipment or relating to a hazard like fire and safety or pilot training, which is not possible and too expensive, you do apply the simulation technique. Preparing for emergencies is easy to remember by NK, SK, and MK, what they would like to know and what they should know and what they must know. This is an aspect of understanding the participants as to what is needed when it comes to understanding the knowledge. And this is to avoid, when things go wrong. When activities go wrong, as they do, and when you know that you could have a day from bad to worse, and it could happen the same day or it is happening now, then you would have to adjust the length of your lecture, know your audience, stop and refocus. They call it debriefing. So I'm sure every trainer with the right mindset will have an idea about the type of participants. One could be a joker, one could be a procrastinator, one could be distractor. So you'd have to play accordingly and stop. If something is not doing good, if something is not going the way, then you would stop the activity and do a debriefing.
Stacy's head spun as the training dragged on. The trainer failed to keep her trainees awake. A minute moved like molasses. Stacy felt herself age with each passing moment, and her brain begged for mercy. The trainer hadn't done her homework and didn't have anything in her bag of tricks to keep her trainees engaged. Stacy had to take a stand before she collapsed in a ball and fell into a long winter's nap. Stacy declared the training officially over and asked the trainer to step outside and let her man the controls. Stacy stepped forward and took the helm. Stacy had a wealth of resources at her fingertips and dished them out a mile a minute. Soon the whole training class erupted in applause. Stacy had saved them from their worst nightmare. The remaining hours whisked by and everyone left with more knowledge than when they arrived.
All right, preparing for the workshop. Let's see how you, with your information, with the material gathered and the lesson preparation, how you will get to the next step of being a competent trainer. Because you have to be prepared. No matter how experienced you are, you have to be prepared because you have the type of audience, you have the type of environment, and you have the type of topic. So every topic is different. There is no such thing as a one set model for all. So you would be, as a competent trainer, prepared. But for those of you who are in the process of being a trainer or already delivering a bit of training, you do have to understand that preparation is required, and it takes a long time to get to the level, and it takes a long time to get to have a grip on these lessons and how you would be a competent trainer, how you would understand everything from the beginning towards the mastery level. So here you are stepping into the workshop and you have to follow the techniques. There might be some requirement that you have to understand. So you would make a material list. Now, believe me, before you get to the actual training part, if you are, a consultant trainer, there would be a lot of things that you'd have to carry. Sometimes you have to travel to get to the location. So you have to know the location. Sometimes you have to drive, sometimes you have to fly. So you need to have the right things in your suitcase, as they call it, the trainers and the people who travel abroad usually live out of a suitcase. So they need to have everything. A material list. It's better to be over-prepared and have a backup plan. This includes a lot of things under the material. For example, people may not understand the power of the stationery. For example, from my desk, you see a green highlighter. What does the highlighter do, and what is the highlighter needed for? There is a flip chart, and there is a smart board, and there is a screen, and there is a projector. And you have a microphone attached to your lapel. This is wireless. And then you have another mic on the podium. And then you have a lot of things. So these are the things that you have to have an inventory of and how to effectively use them. For example, the marker that I showed you is actually a voice, is something that gives a voice to the participant. So you're supposed to have, in a state-of-the-art environment, stickies, posted notes on every desk for the participant, along with the water and a bag and a free gift and whatnot. So for example, the stickies or the notepad or the post-it, along with colorful marker, will give a voice to the participant. I don't know, you may not realize how effective it is, but it does. It helps them in being engaged. It helps them in writing notes. It helps them in asking questions. It gives them basically a tremendous, energy or interest towards the workshop. So there's a lot here on the list that we can talk about. You will learn it by experience, or if you already know it, you need to believe in its power. Gathering the participant information. It's very important that you know. So there is always an introduction, especially when it's a technical training, to understand what managerial level they are at, and what department they come from, and what is their objective, who's paying for it, and how they got selected. And for the trainer to know who would be on a fast track, which means that how he would be becoming the next director or the CEO. So these are the things that you have to be aware of, because you are the person who's on the driving seat. You're the pilot, and it would be up to you to steer it and take it to the top. But in any event, never would you compromise with the list of attendees. This is very important. Only the trainer has access to it. Beforehand, they will email it to you, the list. So don't play around with the list. Don't let alone sell the information. And then you can be in touch with them. You can follow up. You can even ask for a picture of the participants and take a good look at the picture. So when you get to the point where you are in the room receiving them with a greeting, you can use their name. Now we learned about the power of using their name, the first name, in our motivational theories or whatever. So if you could get to the point where you would know them by their name, then you have already achieved, a successful, a positive rating, and chances are you would be called back again for the training. Physical location, it's usually provided. Projectors are pretty standard these days. Make sure there are no pillars in the room. It's usually held in very, very high sophisticated locations in hotels and whatnot.
Carl fretted until his face turned blue. He didn't have a clue how to get the job done. A mountain of rough drafts climbed to the ceiling. Carl prepared to lose. An idea popped into his weary head. Soon, he had the foundation built, but he needed something more. Carl put one foot in front of the other and marched to the beat of a new drummer. Failure would not be an option, he thought to himself. Carl had turned into a new man, a new confident leader, and stood tall, ready to face his nemesis, his arch enemies, planning and preparation. They would quiver at the sight of him and know they didn't stand a chance. Carl had a solid plan and an indestructible courage that made others quake in their shoes. Carl took control and dominated the training arena.
So the more time you spend, the better it is. The more organized you are, the better it is. Preparing for the lesson plan is one thing, and being organized, being on time is the other part. So you are ready to set your foot in, and you have to make sure that you arrive on time. And then trainees will actually be very curious to know who the trainer is. This is the first thing that's on their mind. So you are their hope, and you are their vision, and you are their leader. So you steer them the best possible way and keep them high and engaged. So greet them well if you're ready, and welcome each other. It's better to be there on time before time. Greeting participants as they come in. If they have a name tag, and you would start out with an icebreaker, you would start out with agenda. Now the workshop objectives are very important. It could be placed on the screen so that they can, look at it as we get started. Research has consistently shown that when clear objectives are given, then learning happens rapidly. Okay, so objectives are to be given, are to be met, and this is how learning will take place rapidly and consistently. And then physically, it's always better to, talk about the exits and where the washrooms are, especially if it's a big conference hall, having a major conference, you need to have these safety issues taken care of. Icebreakers and energizers helps everyone, break the barriers, bring about everyone close to each other, and so forth. There are good openers, tension breakers, connects a group, injects energy. So instead of introducing, or having the attendees introduce their own self, what you can do is incorporate an activity and split the attendees into groups of 2. If it's a group of 10 to 12 or 10 to 20 participants, split them into the groups of 2, give them a few minutes to talk to each other, and let everyone come back and introduce his partner. So instead of you having self-introduction, you will have your partner as a part of who was in your team to introduce yourself. So this will tell how both know each about the other, and this will also break the barriers. Okay, so people will talk. So that was about getting your foot in.
Frank hemmed and hawed. He couldn't get it right. Frank needed the perfect greeting, but every effort fell flat. He needed a coach, but didn't want to admit defeat. When his voice box called it quits and his large hands disappeared behind his fear, he gave up and cried out for help. Simon heard his battle cry and ran to assist. Frank acknowledged his shortcomings and begged for pointers. Simon jumped at the chance to carry the weight and helped Frank over the bump. Simon mimed, acted, and role-played. Frank caught on quickly. Soon, Frank found a greeting and went into the training with just the perfect amount of bravado and humility. He succeeded, and Simon stood proud as he watched.
All right, if you have never done role playing, then it's a chance for you to try it because it helps a lot. It might look sometimes silly, it might look like imitation, but it helps. Okay, so role playing is actually a concept that's mostly applied in the media training center, but these days media is so common. But if you were to go to a film and training institute, then you would be doing nothing but practicing how to improvise role playing. Because it happens that when you play the role, you come up with, scenario-based dialogues, and then you get to bring in spontaneity. You sometimes erupt, and you have emotions to control. And then this helps you when in front of a camera. And these days everyone's in front of the camera.
Frank Hamden.
So the power of role playing. The delivery tips and tricks. So these are how to get your dialogues out, how to deliver your communication strategies in an effective manner. So these are the tricks of the trade. Now, effective training would not be where a trainer is always talking, okay? But in here, in our series, I don't have an option, but I have to continue talking, which is not good. So a good trainer is the person who allows the participants to come in, to engage, to open up, and to get to a process of self-discovery, okay? So this is an instructor-led training or instructor-centered training, but there are ways that we are looking at, we're trying to design for participants to be involved in such a way that they are learning through a process of self-discovery. So they are just discovering themselves and saying, okay, I even know about this, so I need to talk. So there would be a time when they will not have enough time for everyone to have a chance to speak. So this would be how you would lead them to a process of discovering their own self. This doesn't mean that the trainer is not required, is not needed. It's an instructor-led training, okay? And it gives the instructor a chance to have a break, a breath of fresh air. Like I said, I don't. This is a webinar, but other webinars, there are microphones and cameras open that we do. So you have to look at how you could lead an instructor-led center, but have the participants, the focus by their own participation and self-discovery. So how would you bring about the needed engagement? You use visual aids, you use videos, you use flip charts, whatever you can, whatever they feel relevant. Supporting material, you need to have some space so that the clear is obvious. Can someone see the information clearly? Does it focus trainees' attention? Basically here, you have to come up with different supporting material. You swap between your screen and your smartboard, and you swap between your smartboard and your flip chart. And then you swap between the flip chart and your own microphone, and then walking around and then trying to get a grip on everyone so that everyone is engaged, asking questions to the group, but having one answer it. Breaks are usually a part of agenda, but you have to decide when the break is needed. It's regional, it's cultural, engagement needed, and a quick stretch. So if you're doing activities, you can say that the end of this activity is the break, the lunch break or the coffee break. So he who is done with the activity can continue, take a longer break. Okay, so you have all kinds of break. People need longer break. There is never a break that is long enough. Okay, so you have a coffee break, you have a cigarette break, you have a lunch break, and you have whatever break. So breaks are important. So the trick of the trade is if you don't give the right break at the right time, chances are you would be termed a bad trainer.
Jill and Nate looked like a couple of Keystone cops. Jill dipped. Nate dodged. They butted heads at every turn. Jill nearly blew her top. She'd had enough. Jill demanded they stop the nonsense and pack only what they needed for the training seminar. Nate agreed. Jill tore their list into pieces and sprayed it into the air. Their list caused too many headaches and didn't push them forward. Nate grabbed the visual aids. Jill hoisted the whiteboards. They were armed for duty. Together, they threw the conference room together without all the bells and whistles. Their lecture won them accolades. Their attendees applauded their success. Jill and Nate jumped for joy when they realized that less really had been better than more.
All right, that was about the delivery trips. You are in the workshop, you are in the seminar, you are in the training session, you have set your foot and you have delivered. Now, for a one-day session, it takes a whole lot of activities, it takes a lot of efforts to keep it interactive. In soft, we talked about the value, the importance of interaction versus action. I think I mentioned the story about the treasure island, and just to emphasize on interaction. So there is a difference between action and interaction. Here you are keeping it interactive. So interactive means the focus is on you. It's all about you, and it's okay to say whatever you say. So although this is a participant-centered training, and you feel that, why I am here when, it's being interactive. So this is your reason. This is the reason why you're here. You keep it interactive by exhibiting your knowledge, by focusing on the needed skills to close the gap, and keeping it interactive so everyone gets to the next stage. It keeps your day going at a certain pace. It makes it emotionally vibrant for all to be moving together. Sometimes there are groups that join late. There are sometimes groups who come from a different level. There are sometimes juniors and their supervisors. So you have to keep it interactive in such a manner that the session, the attendees are engaged. This is the purpose of these activities, the energizers and the videos, the role playing, or the jokes that sometimes you have to say. So how would you keep it interactive? You would encourage discussions, provide objectives, organize groups, allow thinking time, respect everyone's answer. The rule is to ask a question to the entire group and give the opportunity for one person to answer. Or if you think that somebody is lagging behind, then you can try to motivate him by asking him, giving him the opportunity to answer. But the point is, the important thing is to ask to the group, question the entire group, and get an answer from one person. Group work, make groups twos, fours, and give them some activities and give them some little tasks that they will be engaged in. And then if you give them the like 10, 15 minutes of a group task, then that's how time passes. That's how they get involved. That's how a team is formed. And be sure to give them the directions and the materials needed. So this is where your stickies, your notepads, your devices, your colorful markers come into the picture. The power of stickies, it's one idea per note. So don't be stingy on using the post-it. Big words, smaller notes given to the participants. So that was about interaction.
Kim stopped Lori in the hallway and asked why she needed all the supplies. Lori explained that trainees deserved to be heard and the supplies would give them a voice. Kim stood dumbstruck. She'd never heard such a thing. Lori took her by the hand and led her to the conference room, lined with sticky notes of every color in the rainbow and pens and pencils galore. Kim had never seen so many bright, vibrant colors in one place. Lori delighted in the sight and greeted her guests by name. Kim watched in awe. Lori let each participant speak their minds and jot down their ideas. Kim dubbed Lori the Queen of Training with an open mind and ready ears.
All right, interaction is needed. And by now, I'm sure you all are well versed with interaction. But how to have your team group interact is the way you would have to bring to their mind. And you would have to interact, show them, act out to make them understand what interaction is and how easy it is. Sometimes the team goes smooth. Sometimes you could have difficulty. There could be one or two lagging behind. And these are known as difficult participants. And there is always such thing as a tough participant. Just like a tough topic, there are participants. But it would be your job to do your best in getting them move along. And your training should be flexible in such a manner that you could accommodate people who are lagging behind, who have come in late, and you have the workshop or the group simultaneously going with people at different levels, one at the activity ahead and one at the activity behind. So what would you do dealing with different participants? If you have a person who's lagging behind, you could take your own, they could take own time and keep a course behind. They say a semester, you could be a semester behind if you have one tough student, which is nothing but derailing the workshop. So you'll have to set some ground rules like respect, confidentiality, and practice. It applies to everyone. You have to be unbiased throughout your entire session. And you have to explain what respect is to them, how they would participate. And most importantly, the saying, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So what happens in the workshop stays in workshop. I hope you all understand this. So you have to give them a chance to take risk. You have to tell them that this is confidential. This is being respected. To whatever you say will be accepted. There is no such thing as a right or wrong answer. There is no such thing as a fail. And there is only learning. So sometimes you win and sometimes you learn. So same way, you would tell them, give them an opportunity to take risks, make mistakes, and learn from the mistakes. So what kind of people do we have? Jokers, cynic, indifferent, talkers, whisperers. So they all distract and try to derail. So you have to make sure that you do have a joker, because we talked about how in leadership there would be a humorist, there would be there would be decision maker, and then there would be a person who would be able to handle a crisis. So just like in emotion, there is a drama queen, there is an empath, there is a aggressive, passive aggressor, there is a joker. So make sure that you allow him to say a joke or two, but not more than once or twice. Cynic, you have to open him up. There might be somebody indifferent. You have to go and knock his door. Talker would have to slow down and then talk less. Whisperer would distract, would be allowed, should be given a chance to speak out and speak more. And then things happen. You have to be prepared, developing your strategies, how to handle interruptions.
Charlie couldn't hear himself think over all the chatter. Participants shouted and hollered like a bunch of schoolyard children. Charlie whistled. The noise continued. Charlie begged. The participants cackled in return. Charlie stood high atop a chair and begged for the commotion to stop. No one flinched. Charlie wiped his brow and whispered under his breath for the participants to cut out the noise. Soon, the room hushed and all eyes fell on him. Charlie had made progress and had to do something before chaos erupted. Charlie thought for a moment and announced that the romper room behavior had to stop. Participants understood immediately that Charlie had control and remained seated with lips sealed as he continued.
All right, that was participant-centered,
Charlie,
how to be interactive, and how to allow them to evolve. Tackling tough topics, just like how you would tackle tough participant, you would be able to learn how to handle tough topics. In most cases, in our case, we don't have any tough topic. It's all easy to learn, adapt, and grasp. But there might be some sensitive topic relating to fire and safety. They're relating to hazards, safety at the workplace. This is a very common topic. And you would have to adjust how to relate without striking a nerve, which means that without dismooring anyone, without affecting their emotions in a negative way, and before you would hurt their feelings. So you have to watch out for some stuffs. You are the recipient. There might be a recipient, and it would be very difficult to deliver the bad news. So relating to an accident, anything emotional or a death in the workplace, relating to hazard or a liability issue. So you'd have to be able to adjust the material, and you would have to be learning how to deal with the sensitive issues. Just like how you have a plan B, contingency plan, same way you would have to be able to manage these tough topics.
Clyde held his head in his hands. The workshop worried him. Clyde had never known such dizziness and knew the reason behind it. He didn't like the subject matter and didn't know how to broach it sensitively. He needed help. Clyde called his coworker, Ronald, and asked for assistance. Ronald jumped at the chance to walk him through it and provided him with tips and tricks to get the job done in a jiffy without breaking a sweat. Clyde practiced and practiced until he memorized every last letter and could say it in his sleep. When the workshop day arrived, Clyde woke up with a newfound confidence and a plan in place. Clyde knocked it out of the park and gave the best lecture of his life.
So the tough topics is where you are challenged, your professionalism is challenged. So this is a sensitive area that seldom people would face, but you would have to be prepared. So that's about it. The last topic is usually wrap up. I don't get time to talk about this, but this is once again for you all to come up, and this is your journey to improve your skills. The workshop is coming to a close. The webinar is towards the end. The series we have completed. For every topic that you did, this was the beginning of your journey. So this is how you would take it, just like every other topic, and towards becoming a trainer, facilitator, or being able to train the trainer like how we're doing today to other people. So this is the best module that I can offer you. I'm like offering my own self my job, because there's only so much that I can do. I can only train you and hundreds for a certain time. But if you all get to the point where you can be trainer, then it will be a multitude. It would be perpetual knowledge, radiation knowledge delivery. So with that, we will end our section for today and the topics for the series. I'm open for question and answers for now. And then I'll see you all next week, hopefully next week, depending on what the announcement is, when you would be graduating with the series soft skills. So that's it for now, and over to you, the moderator.
Thank you. Thank you, Shahsa, for today's lecture on Train the Trainer, which is a course in itself. The aim of this Train the Trainer session was to provide all the participants with the necessary skills and knowledge to deliver effective learning training. The participants become more confident in delivering presentations to an audience, to be able to understand and learn how to organize and facilitate learning and development. Thank you, Shasa, for sharing with us the valuable knowledge related to this topic. All right, so let us move to the Q&A round now. And I see that today we have very less, in fact, we have only one question raised. Okay, so the question has started coming in. The first question I would read out would be from Mr. Zahir Hassan. He has asked two questions. The first question is, a person has ability to be a leader, but he's working on a junior position. How he show his ability among his seniors?
Ability to be a leader, but he's working on junior. How sure is? Well, if you remember my first question, I talked about your leadership position could not happen because of two things. One was your competence, and the second was when your opportunity. So competence is something that you can build on, but opportunity comes when when there is a ground for opportunity. So there has to be an availability, and when there is an availability for the position, there has to be a visibility. So the visibility is through your position as a trainer, facilitator, or influencer. So you have to take the initiative to let your people, your supplier, know that you are the trainer that's available all the time. So you have to come up with your training skills and learn to be a trainer, or have the opportunity to train or facilitate or be in the front and deliver. While at the same time, at the back end, you take care of your competencies. So that's how the opportunity will come. That was the first question. Thank you.
Yes.
Next, please.
So the next question is again from Mr. Zahir Hassan. He's asking, a person is working on senior position, but he has no ability to face the audience, feeling hesitation and couldn't start meeting smartly, etc. How can he improve himself?
Okay, we talked about how role-playing helps. So in today's media-friendly world, you would have to practice how you would deliver. So one way to get rid of the fear or the nervousness or the fear of public or being nervous for public speaking is to learn the material, the topic, and be practice. And that's how you would get to it. So practicing at home will only help so much, but you would have to take the initiative and jump and do the delivery. So the first time you may not be able to have a successful presentation, but that's how you would learn. You have to get started. If you're given the opportunity, you have to try it, not just practice at home, but actually jump and take it. So role playing, and then jump onto the screen and then start taking the opportunity. And it would be about average for you to fail the first and the second time. Next, please.
Yes. So the next question is from Ms. Aisha. Could you please elaborate the point dealing with difficult participants?
This is nothing to worry about. Once you're in the position, you would be able to handle it. There are different participants who may have negative about you or about the topic, who may say that the topic doesn't help, does not provide any value. So basically there are distractors, there are passive aggressors that you can handle with your empath or with your emotional. And there are people like jokers, cynics, negative distractors, whisperers, and whatnot that you would have to learn. If he's a joker, allow him to say the joke only once. And there is a whisperer, tell him to speak up loud and he will stop. If there is a cynic person, try to bring some positivity. And if somebody's hiding, go to him and wake him up. So it's not a major challenge. We can handle it, but you would have to work it out this way. Next, please.
Yes, sir. So the next question is from Mr. Altaf Ansari. He's asking, how can we practically test our competence for next level of leadership skill?
Well, this is your company's job to know your competencies based on the job position and job profile. So if you're looking at your next promotion, which is manager 1, 2, whatever, then you get a job profile for that and see what the required competencies are and at what level. So if there is a competency such as business acumen or teamwork, then you would have to look at how much of teamwork he has to know and how much of business acumen is required. So there are multi-level. You have to get an understanding of all this level and master these competencies at each level to be eligible for the next position. So your HR would help you on this. Next, please.
Yes, the next question is from Bharati. How can I control the person who is continuously speaking during workshop is going on?
He's a distractor. You would have to stop him. That's all. There are ways of stopping him, but you would have to stop him and give him an opportunity to talk and tell him that you will have an opportunity and wait for your chance.
Okay, so I think since you have already asked the question raised by Mr. Altaf Ansari, he's re-questioning on that. Sir, before applying for next level, how can I test myself?
Before applying for next level
Yes.
of,
Mm,
I didn't
I
get the question.
think the question is incomplete. However, he has asked another question also. I'll just read it out. How
Okay.
can I find right solution for negative feedback? As everyone has own lens to raise negative questions.
Okay, well, there is a feedback and there is no negative feedback. In fact, it's illegal. It's not appropriate for an organization to give you a negative feedback. But you have to understand that there is a critical feedback and you just look at it and what it says is what you try to avoid in the future. So if they're saying that you're too loud, or if you're saying that you're not competent in this area, then you build up on that area. So the feedback gives you the answer, what is needed. So if there is a deficiency in a certain area and that's the feedback, then that's what you work on. Next, please.
Yes, the next question is from Firoz Khan. How to explore the competency of introverts?
Explore the competency of introverts.
Yes.
If you are an introvert, there are ways to work out and open up. So you would have to practice some tricks and you have to do some exercises if you're an introvert. But if you're trying to open up for somebody else, as a leader, you are equipped with the skills to deal with the introvert. Introvert is not a negative thing. Okay, introvert is not against the organizational goal, but they are different people. You'd have to build on the topic empathy and emotional intelligence to handle empaths and to handle introverts. Next, please.
Yes, I'll just take one more question and this will be the last question now. This question is, I have been working in medical healthcare sector for 2 years as a customer care engineer. I'm planning to open up my own customer service support agency, but also I think customers will not take me seriously. Is it a common thinking or this is the case with me only?
No, there is competition. See, when you are working for some company and then you start, then the important thing is to get business, not to be a good support rep, but to get business. So you have to be more business savvy. You have to be more of a leader. You have to be more of a visionary person and not worry about the specifics. So the best way to get business, opening a business is good, but getting the business is tough. So you'd have to work on getting the business and have somebody else actually work on the specifics of sale. So you have to learn how to get business, which is tough, and not work at the level that you were as a specialist. I hope that answers. Next, please.
Yes. So can we take one more question?
Yeah.
The question asked by Mr. Altaf Ansari is now completed. He's asking, sir, before applying for next level of leadership, how can I test myself? My question before my HR test me, because they are not going to give me next chance for next 6 months.
Okay. Well, you have to look at the job description, what's required, and then you make sure you can, there are some ways of testing yourself. There is psychometric testing available on the internet. You can answer questions and see, if you have those certain skills. So you can do trial and error and see if you meet those competencies or whatever you have are up to date. But you have to, most importantly, you have to get the guidelines of what is needed for you to get to the next step. And once you have those, you can test it. If you fail or pass, would be your own assessment, but that does not necessarily indicate that that's how the HR will look at it. But you can try it, but the best way is to ask the HR and get the job description, look at the competencies and see how much you know. What's missing is what you fulfill. Done?
Yes. Thank you, Shasa, for answering all the queries today. Your
Sure.
sessions
Thank you.
are so full of knowledge and are very well explained. And from the feedbacks and emails, I see that our participants are finding your lectures extremely helpful and interesting too. I would like to express our gratitude on behalf of AMP for being such an excellent speaker and a coach for our audience. Thank you for all the information-packed sessions of the Soft Skills webinar series. It is our pleasure to be able to learn from and communicate with an extremely expert trainer and a career coach like you in these sessions. So in this free training session, series sessions, we completed lectures on English communication and business writing, communication strategies, 10 soft skills for managers, business acumen, coaching and mentoring, employee motivation, leadership and influence, and today we are done with train the trainer. Friends, it is never enough to express our sincere gratitude to you all, and to Shah Saab, and of course, a special thanks to Saeed Saab for making these sessions a wonderful learning experience for all of us. We highly appreciate you all for taking out your precious time from your busy schedules for these sessions. I would now request to Saeed Bhai to talk about LMS and assessments for a few minutes now. Over to you, Saeed Bhai. Thank you.
Thank you, Amira. I think Shasa would like to answer that question of Altaf Ansari.
I think he has already answered that question.
I think, can you send link or site name? And Shasab has said he would like to answer this question live. Okay.
Okay.
Anyways, I think, yeah, moving forward, thank you so much. And yeah, so we are done with the phase 2 of the soft skills webinar series. I would like to, just make an announcement about the graduation ceremony that we will have. And also a Q&A session will be there this Wednesday, same time, 7:30. So the way it is going to be is, we would request, that session would only be of Q&As. So any question on soft skill that you have, any question on soft skill or the topics that were covered in phase 2, so please feel free to ask those questions, in that session, because we have been getting a lot of, Q&A, questions in the Q&A box every session, but then we are not able to take all those questions because of time constraint. So we have decided to dedicate a complete, session only on Q&A. So next Wednesday, this Wednesday, we will have that session, and also the certificates will be released, once the Q&A session is complete on Wednesday. Now coming to the, the LMS standpoint, we had made it very clear, on the day one itself, that anyone who has attended the webinars and also taken the courses and assessments in the learning management system link that was provided to you, they will be issued certificates, and you can download on the login itself. So we are in the process of compiling the attendees and also making sure that, who have taken the assessments. Yes, many of them have taken the courses as well, but certain, the queries what I have is, we have completed the course, but it still shows as continue. I would like to make one thing clear here is, this is an e-learning program, so there is no there is no facility like, the course is completed. Either you can take the courses n number of times. You can take the courses as many number of times as possible. So that's the reason it shows continue. One other reason why it says continue and why it says revise is that only if you, even if you skip even a single slide in the e-learning course. I know that, it's a long course, and then there are a lot of elements in it, lot of modules in it. Most of the times, that's a human tendency that we tend to, skip one or two links in the course. Even if you miss a small link that you are supposed to click and you did not, the system will not, mark it as complete. So that is the reason why you might be seeing it as continue. Okay, so but that doesn't matter. That doesn't stop you from getting the certificate. The major thing that you require is you have to complete the assessments. Now coming to the assessments, again, many queries are coming that we have completed the assessments, but still we are not able to see that, I mean, we have completed all the assessment, but it is not showing as completed, or it is in the report, it is showing as not taken. There are two kinds of assessments here. We have been talking in every session. I'll repeat it one more time, that there are two kinds of assessments. One assessment that you see within the course itself. Within the course itself, they are practice questions for you. The actual assessments are outside the course, but within that course page. On the left-hand side, you will actually see. Okay, I'll share the screen right now, but I had sent one message to one of the users here, Mr. Yaqub. If you can confirm, then I can start sharing the screen. I sent you a message, Mr. Yaqub. So kindly check your message and let me know if I can use your details, to show the LMS, because you have done 100% of the course. You've taken all the assessments. So yours is an ideal case wherein I can demo it to the other users so that they can see where they are lagging. So if you can confirm, then I'll get it started. Okay, so I'll wait for his response. But prior to that, for this Wednesday, okay, for this Wednesday, okay, you will have the LMS open, but the courses will not be there because the courses are already done, but the assessments are open. All the 7 assessments are open. So please make sure that please make sure that you're taking the assessments probably today or tomorrow, okay, or Wednesday as well. So Wednesday 7:30 when we meet, right after that the certificates will be issued. Okay, so please make sure that you are taking the assessments. Yeah, one question is, where do I opt for course? I attended today only. How or where do I take the assessment? Yes, there is the LMS link that you can take, ampskills.swifthcm.com, but please make sure that you are taking the assessments. But since you have attended only one session, so I'm afraid you might not be able to get the certificate because of the pre-selected criteria of issuing the certificates. Okay, yeah, since I haven't heard from Mr. Yaqub, I'll share the screen. Okay, so as you can see here, so this is the screen, this is the dashboard that you see, and this user has already taken all the 7 courses. And if you can see here, because it says revise. Why it says revise? Because this user has taken all the slides completely without missing any slide. So that's the reason it is showing as completed. Revise means one round is already complete. Okay, now for those of you who are saying that assessments they are not able to take, okay, let me just show you. When you click on continue or begin, okay, or revise, okay, the course starts again. If there is a course file, you see here, this is last week. Okay, there are 4 different modules here: introduction, e-learning module, assessments, and the recommended reading list. All these 4 have to be taken in order for you to complete the course. But for the certificate, assessment is required. Now when I click on introduction here, okay, so when I click on introduction, this introduction comes up. What is it all about? Next is e-learning module. I clicked on e-learning module. So this e-learning module comes and plays here. I think the users are getting confused here because the e-learning module opens in full screen mode. All you have to do is you can just click on this hide learning path. So hide learning path, that means that you will be able to see. Now within this particular e-learning module, you will see one assessment, but that is a practice assessment. That doesn't count towards the certificate. What counts towards the certificate is the assessment over here, that is on the left side. Okay, so when you click on this assessment, okay, the actual assessment comes up. The assessment that I showed you, this is how it is. When you click on take assessment, okay, so the assessment now in fact shows up over here. Okay, so this is must for you to take the certificate. Now when you click on the report, okay, so this is how it comes up. You see here, this person has taken all the courses, 7 courses, 7 completed, so it is 100% for him. Okay, and there is this assessment report that you have to check, user assessment details. So when you click on this, you will see this report. user assessment details. Here you will see all your assessment results. Now you see here there are like 7 courses that we had, 7 assignments again, and these 7 assignments, you see here, this user had finished this 10 soft skills in just 1 attempt and he had scored 250. Okay, business acumen, there were 2 attempts. Okay, in first attempt he got 120 and in second attempt he got 150. So that is how it should be. This is the perfect scenario for you to understand that you need to complete the assessments properly, from the assessments module, okay, not of the assessments which are there within the course. If you go within the course, then you will see the practice assessments only. Now I'll come back again here on this employee motivation. When you click, you will see only the assessments coming up here, okay, because the course was available only for 1 week. Okay, after that it gets disabled, but the assessments you have kept it open because they are mandatory for your certification. So one more time I'm repeating, please take the assessments which are there in the left hand side learning path. If you don't see the learning path, you need to just click on this show and hide learning path. It will in fact show. Now you see here, if I hide it, it will be hidden. When I click on show learning path, it will be shown. So all the assessments are present here. So kindly take the assessments from here and you can see your results from user assessment details. User assessment details. So we are in the process of compiling the results now. So once we compile the results, tomorrow also you can take, and then you can take it on Wednesday as well. So Wednesday 7:30 we'll meet again. We will have a short Q&A session, and then we will have a concluding graduation ceremony. Okay. So these are few things that I wanted to share. Yeah, so a user is asking like, I've attended all the assessments till now, but I've enrolled only on July 14. Will this affect my attendance percentage and will I receive a certificate, sir? If you've attended all the assessments and then 80% of the attendance is actually mandatory, we made sure that, 100% should be there, but 80% of attendance, even if you have your certificate, will be issued in that case. Okay. Yeah, so this is it from my end, and any query that you have on LMS, please feel free to send an email on office@ampusa.org. So your queries will be addressed. Okay, inshallah, whatever be the queries be. Yeah, is this?
Okay.
I hope this is detailed out and clear as well. Okay, if there are any further questions, okay, we can take it.
All right, I see one question. It is open. And if you see in the
Yeah,
Q&A section.
I answered that question just now, that 80% of the attendance is mandatory.
Mhm.
Okay, so that has to be completed. Okay, yeah, one good question raised by one of the users. What about today's session assessment and e-learning material? I believe for this session, I'm afraid there might not be any material. Okay, but I'll have to confirm with Shah Saab if he's going to provide us with any material. I think easy online now. Probably he has left.
He has left. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll confirm with him, but we will, even if it is not there, that doesn't matter. Okay, you will be issued the certificates based on the previous sessions, but we'll try to make sure that we will if we get the material from him today itself, I'll upload it today itself. Okay, if not, tomorrow also we'll upload it, but your certificates will be counted till the previous sessions only. Okay, Ms. Indira, you had sent an email to, and then I see your question here. I hope that with my previous explanation, your query has been answered. If it is not answered, please let me know now itself, and then please then I can address it. Also, Ms. Umera, I just wanted to clarify one thing here, that many queries that what we are getting, we are
Yes.
not having a proper email ID. Okay, it is very important for me to understand that I need the registered email ID in order to check. Without the registered email ID, I really cannot check what is happening with your scenario, with your courses. Okay, I request all the participants to kindly mention your registered email ID in your email, not your password, just the email ID will suffice. Okay.
All right. So
Yeah.
I see
Hello?
different email IDs, how it would be possible?
No, to register different email IDs, that means two different users. Okay, so if you have two different email IDs, you have to make sure that you're completing the course with one of them only. Okay, so the certificate will be issued accordingly. Or even if you have completed both the courses, if you have completed, both the with both the registered email IDs, if you have completed, then you will be issued two certificates, unfortunately, or fortunately. Okay, whatever be it.
All right. So I see that in the chat box, Miss Indra has written for you that I'm in a confusion state where my assessments are completed or not. How to know? Because I had done it, result is showing 0.
Yeah. Okay, Miss Indra, I think I have your registered email ID. I'll check on it and I'll respond back to the email right after the webinar. Okay. So if you please expect my email. Okay. Once you get your email, I'll be able to verify it. But I'm sure that if you have taken the certificate, I mean the assessments from the left side, okay, you should be able to see your assessment details, in the report itself. So please wait for my email after the webinar, Miss Indra.
Yeah. So thank you, Said sir, for your valuable information and guidance. And of course, help with the LMS. Your guidance and efforts are highly appreciated. To all the attendees, it is always a pleasure to have you all on board for our sessions. Attending these sessions will always benefit you all in your professional lives. AMP, in collaboration with Reader Academy and Swift e-learning services, has come up with this soft skill webinar series for the second time for you all. So let's never miss this opportunity to engage ourselves in our career building by learning through our highly qualified and expert trainer, Mr. Siddiqui Sahab. Our next session, which is the last session of the series, will be on this Wednesday, that is 12th August, at the same time, that is 7:30 p.m. India time, for 1 hour. We will be having a combined Q&A section in that session. So this last session on 12th August will be your graduation ceremony day 2. So do not miss to join us for it. So my advice to all our attendees would be never stop learning, for when we stop learning, we stop growing. As education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world in your life. So keep joining us in these sessions. Keep yourself updated through our website www.ampusa.org/past web talks. If you wish to be a part of AMP and its community work, you can simply log on to www.ampindia.org/join AMP. In case you have any queries, feel free to write to us at office@ampusa.org. Inshallah, we will try our level best to solve your issues. I'm Humera, your host, signing off from today's session now. Do not miss the last session on 12th August at the same time, 7:30. Stay home, stay safe, and keep learning. Take care. Goodbye for now. Thank you, everyone.